Hey, here we are again, and we're in the middle of my telling you the story of my mother's life. And I keep referring to her as my mother, but her name is Pasqualina, or Pauline. So I'll start using her name more often because should I write a book, it will be called Pauline or Pasqualina. Anyway, she's the mother of 13 children. 2 died before I was born, and that left 11. My father was a section hand foreman. He died just shortly after I was born. So I kind of zipped through a little bit of that. But now we're into the childhood years. When I was 1, 2, 3, and on up. And I had an older brother who is, I'm not going to tell you how older he is because then you'll know how old I am. But anyway, we were very close. In fact, we looked like twins. And then my sister Tony was after that. And then after Tony, boy, you got to bear with me because I'm just going to rattle off names, but I don't know where they are in the lineup, who's the oldest and so on. But there was my brother Leonard. There were 2 Leonards. One Leonard passed away, so we had another boy. Not we, my mother did. And then we had another child that died at birth, real close to birth. And then we had Louie and Timmy and Bill or Bob. So as my memory kind of comes back to me, I'll tell you about each one and what they did along the way. They're all fantastic. So, in fact, I could get away with murder because everybody was afraid of the De Felici brothers. They were tough, and I mean in all ways. So we'll start with where I left off, talking about my mother and how she was going to raise 11 children, 9 boys, 2 girls. We had our own football, well, we didn't have a football team with 9 boys, but I was talking about my mother raising us right after my father died. What I did not tell you is my mother, Pasqualina, was ultra religious. She read the rosary, she said the rosary every day. She never went anywhere without the rosary in her hand, and she'd be on one prayer or another. And the kids, all of us, had to go to church every Sunday. Should we not go to church, we did not eat. There was no sympathy or maybe half a sandwich. We did not eat that day. And some of us sometimes used to try to sneak away and not go to church. The main reason being, it was winter time, a lot of times, and we had to walk maybe 4 miles to go to St. Joseph's Church. Now there was another church called, oh, help me here, Mount Carmel. And it was down the harbor in Ashtabula. And there's a bus for that one, but you had to get up real early to go to that one and take the bus. So we ended up going to St. Joseph, which had a noon mass. I did not know this, but my mother knew every time I skipped going to church. But later I found out that she had spies all over the place on which one of the kids were missing from church. So I'll start with when I was very young, but I was old enough to be out in the streets like 6 or 7, and go to church by myself. I was old enough to help around the yard and go on errands. Now, most kids today at 6 or 7 are really not sent on errands and told to go to work. But I was, and I did one thing that I'm so proud of. So I have to tell you a story that my mother told me. My mother told me a story about the woman who was very bad, and she didn't do anything good. And when she passed away, she wanted to go to heaven, but she couldn't go to heaven because she didn't do any good. But then one of the saints, I don't know, this is my mother's story, remember. One of the saints noticed that she gave a piece of garlic to a very poor woman, family woman. And the saint who was handling the passageway to heaven said, well, that's good enough to get you into heaven. She was in purgatory. And according to Catholics, that's like a stop in between where you're going. You're still not sure where you're going. So anyway, this piece of garlic that she gave to this poor woman, they let it grow the roots and the vines from that one piece of garlic all the way down to purgatory for this woman to go up to heaven. So the woman gets on and starts climbing, going to heaven, when all the other people start climbing, getting on the vine. And this woman kept kicking them. Just, get away, kicking them. And she kept kicking them and kicking them, trying to keep them from going with her. Vine broke, down she went. So my mother, the moral of her story was, you've got to do good things. Because when you do good things, it comes back. And the more good things you do, the better it's going to be. So I'm a religious person, but I'm not strict on all the rules. So she sent me to the grocery store with a 50-cent piece, which was a lot of money.